Welcome back. Well, it's February 1st, and we're looking at the news headlines today. It's not good. It is not good news headlines. If you're a religion, I think these are some of the worst headlines. And we've seen this last year, about this time of the year. We've seen a lot of bad headlines regarding Jehovah's Witnesses. Mass shootings in Germany. We've seen bombings, multiple bombings. One bombing was at a Kingdom Hall. The other was car bombings. We've seen shootings, people at the Kingdom Hall shooting each other, saved by an iPad or something. All kinds of things. We even see the headlines on the naked Jehovah's Witnesses ramming through gates. Armageddon's coming. We've seen that here in Alberta a few years ago. And they thought Armageddon was coming. They were all naked. For some reason, they were kind of spun out on something. And miners were involved. They picked up a neighbor, forced the neighbor into the car, ended up in the ditch. The cops there, headlines. So it's to me it's a time to start asking questions when we look at these kinds of news, and we're gonna take a look at we're gonna ask some questions at the end of the news. We're gonna get right into the news, what the headlines are about, and we're gonna look at brain damage. Can you get brain damage from being raised as a Jehovah's Witness? Now, don't let this scare you. I was one for 30 years, and I'm going to say yes. I ended up in a psych ward for 3 days, in the middle of being a Jehovah's Witness, right in the middle of it. And I was in it for 30 years, but about 15 years in, I ended up in a psych ward, and that's a whole nother story. Our minds aren't working right when we're Jehovah's Witnesses, folks. Fortunately for some of us out there, we realized that at the time, and I actually went and sought out some help. I wasn't getting help from elders. I was having a nervous breakdown. I was going through a marital breakup. And these things are, when it comes to marriage and religion, they're so closely associated. In fact, marriage can never really work in a Jehovah's Witness arrangement because the allegiance is not to each other. The allegiance is to 9 men in New York. And we keep saying that over and over again. And they built an elder's book that really constrains people and holds them captive. So if you're in a marriage, it cannot work fully until you get out of the religion. And we can't emphasize that enough. But anyways, we're going to get into this, the psychological end of it. I am no counselor by any means, but we are going to look at an article done by a professional, a real professional, not by the Watchtower Writing Committee. We are going to look at the Watchtower briefly and see they are talking about mental health right on their website. We're going to look at that briefly. Okay, first of all, we're going to get right into the news. The news for today is right here. Let me see if I can pull that up. There we are. There's a lot of ads in this news. So I'm sitting right on the ad part. That's where I'm sitting. I could be a little bit bigger, I guess. But I'm right here. I'll cover most of the ads. And then we'll read through it together. Now, the news here is taken from Daily Mail. I'm going to post it, Is it true? Is this true news? For sure it's true news. This is true news. This incident happened. Now, this is February 1st, 2024 news. But this incident happened a year ago. We didn't know about this a year ago. It was in the courts. It just came out of the courts is what happened, and that's why we know about it. Here's a little video on it. I started play. I think it started playing here. Anyways, here's the little video on it. There's the guy. Peter Norgrove. He'd been carrying out building work at this, it's a sister. She's from the Kingdom Hall, apparently. He met her there. And he's doing this work. This is her little back alley camera that's picking it up. So he finished his work for the day. Norgrove began tidying up, and shortly before 2 p.m., several minutes later, he puts a pair of gloves on after working for almost 4 hours. I'm going to pause it here now. If anybody's in the audience is not 18 years of age, they should click off. This is a pretty graphic video. We cannot monetize these videos. There should be no commercials. That's a thing with our work. I'm finding that as a JW creator, like a ex-JW creator, creating and covering news, I can't monetize half the news out there. It's all CSA related, abuse, killings. You can't. YouTube says no. So if you're 18, if you're not 18, you shouldn't be watching this video. Okay, so he's cleaning up just after 2 p.m. He enters Sharon's house via the back door, closing it behind him. After 20 minutes, he exits the house, clutching what appears to be a bag, carrying it to his car there. This is the doorbell cameras catching this. It was during this time that Norgrove killed Sharon. Norgrove then continued to tidy up before leaving his car after 3 p.m. So he was there, killed her, and that's it. Is there more? No. Okay, so there's the headlines. The killer, builders, twisted 24 hours. The killer's builders twisted 24 hours. That's how they labeled this. How murderous Jehovah's Witness bludgeoned female customer with a hammer and then whistled as he packed up his tools before leading a service for the worshippers just hours later at the it would be the Kingdom Hall. They call them churches in newspapers, but he was leading the service. So this tells me right from the headlines, without going any further, that this guy was privileged, elder maybe, in the congregation, leading a service, so leading the congregation. And it said he was leading that for the worshippers just hours later at the Kingdom Hall where they met. So this is where he met his client. You know, a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses work for Jehovah's Witnesses. And whether they're qualified, you know, there's a... Anyways, we're going to read this article. It's quite a long article. Okay, so it was published 31st of January this year, so just yesterday. And it was updated today. So, here we go. Now again, if you're not 18 years of age, click off this channel. This is not for you. And if you, this is very, very graphic, folks. This is one of the most graphic news articles I've read. So even if you're above 18 and you don't like graphic stuff, don't bother watching. It's this bad. A twisted Jehovah's Witness bludgeoned a woman he rode with. I don't know. Rowed with? Argued with. Okay. Thanks. So a woman he rowed with over incomplete building works to death with a hammer, and then merrily whistled as he packed up his tools and went to lead a service at a church where they'd met. Cowboy builder Peter Norgrove, 43, was recorded whistling as he packed away his tools as victim Sharon Gordon, who he was doing work for, lay dying. And that evening, the Jehovah's Witness led a service for worshippers via Zoom at the local Kingdom Hall. The court heard that Miss Gordon had been introduced to Norgrove, who had recently retrained as a builder by a friend, and then commissioned him to build a ground floor extension after he successfully undertook some fencing work for her. So she was a friend. But a job that he estimated would take between 4 and 6 weeks ended up taking 15 months. Could you imagine, folks? And was still not finished when he finally killed her. A judge was told this afternoon. Norgrove took a lump hammer and gloves to the property in Dudley, West Midlands, and that would be in Europe, right? Dudley? That's Europe, right, honey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are we, sorry?
Dudley, West Midlands,
Midlands, yeah. It's UK, yeah.
UK. This is in the UK, folks.
I'm just looking.
So Norgrove, he took this hammer to the property in Dudley, which he donned before killing her last July. Which he put on. Okay. So Miss Gordon, 58, suffered at least 8 blows to the head in what the judge described as a brutal and savage attack, and lay dying at the foot of her staircase for up to an hour following the attack. Cowboy builder Peter Norgrove can be seen with blood on his trousers as he cleans away his tools after he beat his victim to death. And there he is, all bloody. Norgrove had been commissioned to build a ground floor extension after he successfully undertook some fencing work for Miss Gordon. Norgrove is pictured before the crime without blood on his trousers after putting on a pair of gloves. That's his picture. And that's... So Norgrove, 43, was then recorded whistling as he packed away his tools as victim Sharon Gordon on the right lay dying. So this is the lady he killed. Right here. And here's the Jehovah's Witness, Norgrove. He looks like he's just stoned. He looks robotic in that picture. I don't know where they get these from.
Very intense.
Very intense. Yeah, look at him. Okay, so that's it. And then Norgrove's movements outside the house that day were caught on doorbell and home security cameras at his victim's property. The footage shows him placing a bucket containing the hammer on the patio before working on an internal door. That lunchtime, 2 friends visited Miss Gordon, and the 3 women discussed the building work in the critical terms, the court heard. Less than half an hour after the other 2 women left, Norgrove was filmed donning a pair of red gloves and going inside the back door just after 2 p.m. Seconds later, the doorbell camera picked up banging sounds, screams for 18 seconds, and inaudible shouting as Miss Gordon was attacked inside. Around 20 minutes later, Norgrove emerges outside the house, a blood stain visible on his right calf, and is filmed casually packing up his car, whistling as he does so. Following the killing, Norgrove drove home and put his clothes in the washing machine before going to collect his daughter from school, arriving late. He then drove to his mother-in-law's home and dumped the hammer in a shed and bloodied gloves and clothes in a bin beside the outbuilding. Prosecutor Earl Pinnock said the items were recovered after his mother-in-law later reflected on his brief visit after discovering Miss Gordon had been killed and retraced his steps at her home. Excuse me for a second. Now, Miss Gordon's body was discovered by her best friend the following day. The court was told the side extension got off to a bad start when Norgrove struggled to secure a digger, meaning he ended up having to dig some of the foundations out by hand. Looks like some more pictures that the police put in. He's now in jail, this guy, Norgrove. So now this is kind of the outside of the house, all the renovations that were going on. 6 to 8 weeks. Nothing can get done in 6 to 8 weeks. Obviously, the guy didn't have the experience to take the job, maybe. Okay. In an entry on the 3rd of May, 2022, almost a month after the work started. So this is just less than a year ago. Well, 2 years ago. So May 2022. So it's not that long ago. Almost a month after the work started, Miss Gordon noted on her calendar, Peter arrived late today, then popped out, so it was never going to get done today. At the end of the month, he sent what she described as an alarming text requesting a further £3,000. She replied, pointing out that the work should have already been completed a week earlier according to his proposed schedule, yet had not gone beyond the foundation stage. And by that time, Miss Gordon had paid him 5 out of 6 scheduled payments towards the £29,000 agreed fee for the work. And it was clear there was a steady reduction in her trust and confidence in him. So it sounds like the guy was a bit of a con artist. Anyways, it goes on to say grandmother, Miss Gordon, would not allow him a key to enter her home on the 3 days a week when she was in the office, which Norgrove complained contributed to the delays. The court heard that the work was also halted or slowed down by a requirement to get the work checked by a building inspector at different stages of the build or by inclement weather. By the end of January 2023, which is a year, their relationship had soured further, the prosecutor said. Miss Gordon told Norgrove costs had now exceeded the agreed price and asked him to reimburse her by the £473 amount she had overpaid him. Wolfhampton Crown Court heard Miss Gordon was also a Jehovah's Witness. So she was a Jehovah's Witness, folks, and belonged to the same fellowship. So she belonged to the same kingdom hall as the killer. Although the two had not met before at church. So although the two had not met before at the church. Miss Pinnock said the pattern of irregular attendance, dissatisfaction, and mutual distrust continued into the summer. So he wasn't showing up. Maybe he was going out in service or something, not showing up at work. Don't know. That can happen. Just over a fortnight before Norgrove killed her, the court heard Miss Gordon sent him a long WhatsApp message lamenting the amount of time he had been taken on the 2-month extension, which she attributed in a large part to his lax timekeeping. On the day of her death last July, Miss Gordon had messaged Norgrove about a previous exchange between them over a £100 radiator he had agreed to pay for after damaging it during the installation. Now, folks, keep in mind, okay, these are 2 Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's interesting, the court's pulling all this information out. The court may not be realizing that these people, they can't go to the civil authorities to deal with any of this. So that lady, that poor lady who's getting screwed, who's getting ripped off by this Norgrove, this killer, she's getting screwed financially. He's ripping her off. Now, if she wanted to take this to civil authority, she can't. She has to go to the darn elders. And if he's the elder that's leading the kingdom hall, how do you deal with this shit? Like, this is the problem being in this religion. I was in it for 30 years, and this is what happens. I had many business dealings, and I was so frustrated. I had a business dealing, and I wanted to bring an outsider in, an engineer in. The elders wouldn't allow it. I didn't have 2 witnesses. They did. 2 Jehovah's Witnesses. Not 2 witnesses. 2 Jehovah's Witnesses, and they have to be upstanding. They can't be some weak person that hardly goes to meetings. They don't accept that. This is a twisted religion, and we're going to get into this more. Now, so this guy was screwing her. She's trying to get her money back out of this guy. You can't go through the elders and get this. He is the elder. So she's trying to get her money back out of this jerk. And on the day of her death last July, Miss Gordon had messaged Norgrove about a previous exchange between them over £100. This radiator, he wrecked probably a heating radiator, probably. You know, they have radiators that heat part of the heating system. And after damaging it during the installation. So after killing accounts, assistant Miss Gordon, father of 3 Norgrove, went home, carried on his family as normal. This is what blew me away, folks, when I read this. Here this guy kills this sister at the Kingdom Hall, kills her at her home, comes home whistling, pretends nothing happened. Was he pretending? Or is he schizophrenia? What's going on with this guy? So it says that evening, the Norgroves went to the Kingdom Hall in Dudley, where he led the part. In the Kingdom Hall, they call it a service for those dialing in on the Zoom. He led the part. So he's obviously a privileged man. He looks like he is. Doesn't look like this is a kind of elders they seek in these Kingdom Halls. Now, a post-mortem examination found that Miss Gordon had suffered fractures to her skull. She died of traumatic brain injuries caused by repeated blows to the head. Belber Sign, defending, denied that there was significant planning in the commission of the offense and described Norgrove as the perfect family man, husband and father, who was full of regret and remorse. The court heard the defendant's wife, Rebecca, who's 43, was standing by him. Wow. You see, in the Jehovah's Witness religion, you're supposed to kind of stand by, he's the elder, probably. He's like an elder. Doesn't say he's an elder, but he's leading the Kingdom Hall service. Could be a ministerial servant. For sure, he'd have to be an elder or a servant. Now, he said Norgrove had no previous convictions, telling Judge Michelle. I get those two mixed up. Michael. Yeah. Telling Judge Michael Chambers, the person before you today is far, far removed from the kind of person you usually sentence for this offense. Yeah. Like, you wouldn't expect a Jehovah's Witness to do this. This is just crazy, this stuff. So sentencing Norgrove of Sedgley, Dudley, to life with a minimum term of 15 years, the judge said he quite deliberately took the hammer and gloves to her home in order to carry out the attack. Yeah, this was premeditated. He put gloves on. It wasn't like he picked the hammer up in a rage or whatever and threw it at her and killed her. He had gloves on. He planned this. And then he was whistling like he had it all planned in his head. And then he dumped the gloves and the bloody clothes off at his mother-in-law's house in a garbage bin outside. Goes on to say, he told the defendant, you were angry because she had continued to criticize you for chronic delays and poor workmanship on what was a relatively simple extension? There was no answer at Norgrove's semi-detached home this afternoon. Huh. A neighbor told Daily Mail, we were shocked to hear what had happened. We have no idea why he did this. It is awful and incomprehensible. They are a nice family and good neighbors. Rebecca has been staying on and off with her parents recently. They have 3 children who all go to the local school. It's all so desperately sad and difficult to understand. And it is, folks. You look at the outside of Jehovah's Witness families, they look actually upstanding. I used to dress up, or in our family, I didn't do it, but the wife would dress up the kids, and they'd have little dresses. They'd look like little princesses. I just knew what it cost. You'd go out and you'd spend $100 every year on a new dress, these little princess dresses. But they had to have it, and it looks fashionable. It looks pretty. It looks nice. I don't know from the outside, but everyone's just. You see, the family comes out of the door. This is what they see. Saturday morning, they're all going out in service, right? So you see all these people dressed up nicely, suits and ties, briefcases, maybe smiling. I don't know, but with a purpose, they get in their car and they race off to the service arrangement. Then they get to the service arrangement. Maybe they come back. Usually you don't want to sign out your own territory and work your own neighborhood. Usually you don't want to do that. But sometimes you get stuck with another car group and they have your neighborhood. I hate that. And then you got to call on your darn neighbors, or else you look like you're in the car group, or you're a brother. You look around and they expect you to do that. I would always try to, I'll take the calls on the other side of the road. I'm not going to call on my neighbors. Because I didn't really talk to my neighbors. I didn't preach at my neighbors. It just would look stupid, right? Think of it this way. I live there. I've lived there for how many years? I get to know my neighbors, right? And then all of a sudden I'm knocking at his door and I'm all formal and I'm going to, hey, I want to show you the watchtower. It just doesn't sit well. It's just not the way it should be. If I'm going to talk religion to my neighbor, we would already had that discussion long ago, right? Or not, because I don't know. He might want to know. I think my neighbors all knew I was a JW, but I didn't preach at them. Anyways, you're supposed to preach at your neighbors, maybe. But they look at these people. Rebecca, they've been staying there. The family, they go to school. Jehovah's Witnesses look good on the outside. But it's the inside that's scary. That's what we're going to talk about, the inside. Brain damage, Jehovah's Witness. First of all, we're going to say hi to everyone. Got right into this really quick. Okay, I don't have I'm not on StreamYard, so I can't really post your messages, but I can look at them and say hi here. Here we are. I'll put myself back in the news so you don't have to look at that. Pasta Babe, hi Linda James. BBC, hi from Brazil. And Warwick Pimo's on. Yep. Hello, Warwick Pimo.
Pasta Babe's on.
Neil Furtado. Nelly Furtado.
Yeah. Frank from Denmark's on.
Frank from Denmark.
Yeah. There's
a lot of people on.
Yeah.
We got a donation from...
that's from Frank.
From Frank.
Denmark,
thank you, Frank.
And there's one more right there.
Oh, and Jamie C., thank you for the donation.
Yeah.
Cup of coffee, thank you. It's right here.
You can change your top chat to live chat.
Where's that?
Right there. Hit top chat and then live chat. There you go.
Okay. I'm doing this in OBS today, so it's
it's a team effort.
It's a little more complex of a program. StreamYard we usually use. It's a simpler program, but I like OBS.
Kevin's on.
Kevin Warren, hey buddy, how you doing?
BSC.
Yeah. Well, you guys enjoy yourselves. Jane at Spitfire. This is crazy news, guys. I just give the news. I don't pick it. I was hoping for different news, but we got to talk about this because why is this stuff happening? Why the courts must be wondering about this. I would think the courts would be wondering what's going on with Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm wondering. I have family still in. Is it worse now? No, I think it's just that the people are so constrained, and it's elders that manage people's businesses from everything. Any civil matter, you cannot take a brother to court. So this sister is getting screwed by an elder in the Kingdom Hall who runs some phony business, but they look upstanding. He looks upstanding to all the neighbors, but you don't know what he does at work, right? No one knows what he does at work or what he knows at work. He might be one of these elders and probably very narcissistic that pretends he knows it all and goes to work for some other brother and says, oh, yeah, I know. You ever run into those people? I have. You can run into those people from all walks of life. So then what's the big deal? Why make a news thing out of this? could happen to a Mormon or a Catholic. Well, the problem is it's not. It's not happening in those other places, and it's happening in this religion. That's what we're seeing in it. Yeah, there's stuff happening all over the world, but they're not blaming it. The religion is not hitting the headlines. Why? This particular religion is high control, and that's what we're going to look at, how high control this religion is. First of all, if you were, just give me a second here, wet my tongue. If you were out on the street and you want to know something about this religion, what's going to come up? Well, let's say we're talking about mental health, brain damage. What comes up? There's actually a lot of stuff that comes up. It says, what mental health issues do Jehovah's Witnesses have? Furthermore, followers of the sect, and this is what Google calls it, it's not my words. Followers of the sect are 3 times more likely to be diagnosed as suffering from schizophrenia, and nearly 4 times more likely from paranoid schizophrenia than the rest of the population at risk. It's something to think about with schizophrenia. It's like having different personalities. This is what the religion does. Let's go a little further. What are the medical restrictions? Well, they talk about the blood. How do Jehovah's Witnesses treat their wives? It's a good question, right? It says wives should be submissive to their husbands. Comes out right out the gate. And husbands are to have deep respect and love their wives. They're instructed to treat their wives as Jesus would treat his followers. So wives, if you're out there spending too much money, Jesus is going to come in and turn over the money tables. Anyways, that was just a joke. My wife's not laughing back there. Okay. What are Jehovah's Witnesses accused of? Cover-up allegations. In some cases, members of Jehovah's Witnesses have been prevented or deterred from reporting child molestation to civil authorities. This is what the robots out there on Google are saying. They're giving all these questions. This is the headlines of Jehovah's Witnesses today. This is what you get. This is what happens when you let 9 narcissists in New York, usurp Jesus' headship and control the religion in this way. This is what happens. Okay, what is the lawsuit against Jehovah's Witnesses 2023? It brings up this lawsuit, landmark ruling. A victim of childhood sexual assault, known as ND, has been awarded groundbreaking $40 million settlement in a lawsuit against the congregation. An elder. I don't know if that one got turned over or something, but this is 2023. This is last year. There's a $40 million settlement. This is what Google is saying about Jehovah's Witnesses. It was a landmark it was awarded, it said. Groundbreaking lawsuit. What a headline. Who are the 5 Jehovah's Witnesses charged? Well, it names them all. David Belosa, Errol William of Delaware, Sean Sheffer, Butler County, Terry Booth. It names all these guys. What a way to, you do all this good all your life. Well, you think you're doing good, right? And, these guys were actually bad. They were bad. They were doing bad. They knew they were doing bad, and they were using the religion to cover it up, because the religion has loopholes. Now, who controls Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, if you ask that to the elders, they'll say, well, Jehovah controls it. Jehovah's Witnesses are organized how do you say that? Hierarchically? Hierarchically. How do you say that, hun? She's not here. Oh. I hate these words. Translate. Is that how you'd say it? Oh, I lost it. Oh, I lost everything. I lost my whole search bar. Oh no, here it is. Okay. What do you call a Jehovah's Witness pastor? Jehovah's Witnesses have no professional clergy, so there is no distinction between clergy and lay people. All baptized members are considered ordained ministers. All members take on the missionary work of telling outsiders about the witness belief. Now here's, folks, this is the biggest human rights problem. This is the biggest problem with this whole religion. So here they want to use the clergy penitent privilege. Okay, now if you don't even have to be baptized to be clergy. What do you call a pastor? Here it is. You don't even have to be baptized to be clergy, to be a witness, to go door to door and preach. You have to be what they call an unbaptized, what do they call it? An approved associate? An approved publisher, but it's before baptism. You actually get approved. There's steps. You meet with the elders. It's really quick steps. It's not big steps. It's just like two elders. Your book study overseer says, oh yeah, they're good family. So your 10-year-old kid, 13-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever, they're publishers. These kids become publishers at 10 years old. Mine did. So they're handing in time. Now, according to this, they're ministers. According to Jehovah's Witnesses, they are ministers of the good news, right? So would they not be protected by the clergy penitent privilege? Because they're clergy. The 10-year-old is classified as clergy in this religion. That's how twisted this religion is, folks. They're classifying 10 years old kids without even being baptized as clergy because they have no professional clergy. Here it is. There's no distinction between clergy and lay people. We all know that as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. All baptized members. Now, when you get baptized, you are considered an ordained minister when you're baptized. So that 10-year-old's a publisher, unbaptized publisher is what they call it, for 3 years, then gets baptized at 13. Now at 13, all members are considered clergy, ordained ministers. That's all members. So the 13-year-old can say, no, my friend told me at school, it's private, and that's covered under the clergy penitent privilege, Mom and Dad. So take that to the elders. You see, they're baptized members considered as ordained ministers. They could fight it. I'm just being facetious with this. But this is how ridiculous this religion is. All members take on missionary work of telling outsiders about the witness beliefs. You know, some people don't even want to do that nonsense. And the Bible says that not everyone is cut out to do that. It says that's a whole nother discussion. We'll have that another day if you want. Put it in the comments. But it's an interesting discussion. The Bible says that some are cut out for this, some are for this, some are for this. Some should be doctors, some should be lawyers, some should be different things. Not everyone should be a minister. And there should be qualifications, especially if they're hiding behind clergy penitent privilege. So that's why it has to get dealt with in the courts. It has to get disassembled. They have to disassemble this whole religion in the courts of the land and say, yep, no. And that's what's going on. It's just a mess. And it's in the headlines. Now, how do you politely decline a Jehovah's Witness? This is an interesting question. You tell them that you were a Jehovah's Witness as a child and that you were later disfellowshipped, adding that you would appreciate it if they did not return. Be polite, but also stern. Can you guys imagine? This is what Google is telling the world. Google's telling the world this stuff. This is not my words. That's why I wanted to show you this. How do you politely decline a Jehovah's Witness? This is what the computers are telling everyone. Can Jehovah's Witnesses say bad words? The Jehovah's Witnesses, a Christian group that believes Armageddon is imminent, discourage members from any sort of foul language on the grounds that it is expressly forbidden in the Bible. And that's why that guy was whistling. He killed the lady and he was whistling because his mind's messed up.
Yeah,
Cognitive dissonance. Disconnected.
To whistle after you
Yeah.
kill.
Could you imagine? Like, what kind of disconnection is going in that guy's brain? He just killed a lady. She's laying there, screaming, suffering, not dead. And he's whistling. I have no words for this stuff. This is just bizarre, horrible. Is it easy to leave? Here's the problem with this religion. Is it easy to leave Jehovah's Witnesses? And this is Google again. This is the world. This is the computers telling everyone. The only way to officially leave Jehovah's Witnesses is to disassociate or be disfellowshipped. And both entail the same set of prohibitions and penalties with no provision for continued normal association. And that's against human rights. It's against human rights. We're going to have more videos on that. That's the kind of the end of the little question thing. I thought that was interesting. This next article, we're going to talk about how Jehovah's Witness teachings can damage brain development in children. So we're just going to put on a commercial here, and I don't know what I have, but we should put out a commercial. Now I'm going to put this out just for a little bit. Let me see if I can get this up. Okay, so I wanted to put that up. Now, how Jehovah's Witnesses, and I gave this a lot of thought because I was one for 30 years and I inculcated this. I'm going to show you what I inculcated into my children's minds. And I'm going to play that next. And the beating of the drums in here is kind of how it is. It's kind of a beating every day. Every day, those kids would go to bed at night, bum, 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 bum. And we'd put those cassettes on, the Bible stories cassettes. There's a lot of bad stories in there. A lot of terrible stories. It's adult content. A lot of killing. A lot of blaming, like Dinah on stuff. A lot of misconstrued stories to control people designed. That Jehovah is this God. You better fear Jehovah. And things like that. So here it is. I'm going to play it for a bit. And then I'll be right back. Mic is on. There we go. Okay, well, thank you for that little break. I hope I didn't brainwash you too hard, but that's how it is. It's every day, and those are just a few of the little story covers in that Bible Stories book. And if you want to really break this religion apart, that's, I think, as an ex-JW coming out, break down the Bible Stories book. And you'll break that down, and you'll find out that's how you were programmed if you were raised in the religion, is through those Bible Stories books. And now they're using videos. They're using the Caleb and Sophie videos. But the damaged people that we're dealing with today are people from yesterday's generation, and they were programmed with the Bible Stories book. It's worse now, and the indoctrination is even heavier through those videos. And the videos are teaching the children that they're going to be outcasts at school. They're going to be picked on at school. We looked at that. We've dissected some of the videos on this channel, and we will continue to do that. But today we're going to look at how Jehovah's Witness teachings can damage brain development in children. Now, if you came in late onto the show and you're wondering what happened, what the headlines were all about, quickly here, it was about an elder or someone that leads the congregation, came in, was doing renovations looked like a sister, someone from the congregation. Didn't come good on his renovations, and he planned a murder, killed her. It came out, and we read the whole, as it came out in court, how the news detailed that. And this happened a year ago. He was caught on camera. The doorbell camera caught him whistling. He had blood on his trousers. He hid the weapons, the killing weapon, in a container at his mother-in-law's house. There he is. The doorbell camera caught him. This looks like a camera, and there was other security cameras in the facility. Yeah, and the other camera probably caught him. This looks like a camera on a corner of a house, right here, like right on the corner, and it could see both ways, so it looks down. Yeah, a lot of times we'll put cameras like that. But there he is. There's the lady that got killed. That's the Peter Norgrove, 43. 43 years old. So we're going to go back, and we're talking about brain damage. What happens, what can happen. Excuse me. This is put out by Stephen Hassan. He's a psychologist that has done a lot of work on cult therapy, coming out of cults. And he says, in my decades of work with helping those born into high control groups, the effects are usually quite devastating. Despite the conditions in which young people are raised, I've also seen remarkable courage and resilience to overcome their childhood trauma, especially if they can receive proper support and counseling. And I've blogged before about the trauma caused by corporal punishment. The Watchtower encourages its members to use physical discipline, and it causes grave harm. There are also serious emotional and psychological abuses. I also blogged about a 27-year-old who left her child motherless because she followed the Watchtower indoctrination and refused a blood transfusion. She was trained to believe if she chose to live by accepting medical intervention, that she would betray Jehovah, and her entire family and friends in the group would shun and disfellowship her. In my opinion, her indoctrination since birth and the social pressure by her husband and other members interfered with her natural instinct to live and mother her child. I was sent a post on Facebook written by someone who was raised in the Jehovah's Witnesses, who had done a great deal of research, Sam Fade. It's a pseudonym for an ex-member who has great experiences studying abuse in children. And I think this article has much to merit, since Sam does not want to be known and is not directly on this web. I got permission to share it. So let's look at this. How Jehovah's Witness teachings can damage brain development by Sam Fade. He's an ex-Jehovah's Witness counselor, psychologist. There's a little star by his name there. Okay, we have established that Jehovah's Witness religion systematically and pathologically disregards the basic human rights of children as laid out in the United Nations Charter on the Rights of a Child. And we can go to that link right there. He has that on Facebook. Okay, I don't use Facebook. So now I want to address the next topic of how this organization fails and damages children in another way. This is the way of the brain development. A child's formative years are a crucial part of their development. Ask any teacher, scientist, or psychologist. These years form the foundation for who a child will become. During those early years, a person's moral compass is set. Brain pathways are developed. Relationships, resilience, community, and a sense of family ties. The list is endless. Interactions throughout these formative years shape the child into the person they will become. Sure, we may grow as adults, but a lot of what shapes us as the person we become transpires through our childhood. What happens in these years is of crucial importance. Children from countries that promote early childhood education see a significant return on investment for the dollars spent. So they're talking about in society, if we put money, our return on investment, if we help our children learn, help them to be a better educated, then we're going to have a better society. The children are going to have a different learning. So he goes on to say, why have I included these figures and what bearing does it have on Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, what does it have to do with the children of Jehovah's Witnesses? And how is it linked to brain development? I included the aforementioned statistics to express the importance of early education in the development of who a person becomes. Education plays a key role in a person's contribution to society at large. And scientific studies demonstrate that such outcomes are fundamentally linked. What does this mean? It means that information going into a child's brain profoundly affects his development. So this whole thing that, like Stephen Lett says, children are evil, he's wrong. Children learn bad traits. They'll learn it. So, yeah. So likewise, a lack of information or the wrong information may be extremely detrimental to the child. Now, the following will outline how this relates to Jehovah's Witnesses. Let me see how much there is. There's not much here. We're going to cover, there's just 3 topics. Lack of critical thinking, stress in the developing brain, and exposure to adversity. So let's cover that first. The American pediatrician, Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, has been hailed as a pioneer in her field for linking adverse childhood experience with toxic stress levels, which leads to harmful health outcomes later in life. She is an advisory council member for the Hillary Clinton's Foundation. Blah, 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 all of her stuff. The more ACEs, okay, here's what they talk about, this ACE. Her work has been featured about blah, 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 exposure to ACEs. Now, they're going to use this word ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. That's what it means. It's an ACE test. I didn't realize this. Not only affects brain development, but also can affect the hormonal system, the immune system, and even the DNA. I didn't realize it can alter DNA. Now, the more ACEs a child is exposed to, the more likely the risk of developing cancer, heart disease. I personally took the ACE test and got 6 out of 10. Many others who have left Jehovah's Witness organization also report high ACE scores. So I think you want a low ACE score. Let's see what this is all about. Adults who are raised as Jehovah's Witnesses end up having higher ACE scores than those of random sampling of a community. How are we able to recognize this as a fact rather than a personal theory? The ACE score test is a tally of exposure to different kinds of abuse, neglect, and other childhood trauma or dysfunction. At the very least, Jehovah's Witness children will always, and they put that in big letters, always score a 2 on the ACE test. Most likely me scoring a way higher due to strict corporal punishments, abusive parents, mental illness, sexual abuse, etc. The 2 ACE components that Jehovah's Witness children are always subjected to, sometimes without parental knowledge, are emotional abuse and emotional neglect. Okay, so we're going to get into that. Emotional abuse comes in the form of severe indoctrination, restrictions of freedoms, constantly being in the flight or fight mode due to doomsday teachings, restrictions on the freedom of identity, and pressure to conform. Imagine a child going to school. You have to sit out in the hallway or the library when they do Christmas, Easter, birthdays, Halloween, all of those things. There's a lot of pressure, saluting the flag, singing anthems. Jehovah's Witnesses have been fighting, using the children as pawns. They use the children as pawns, the organization, to fight their cases in court. Now again, and this way they fight with the children. They fight these cases against schools. Then they get more freedoms. You know, at one time they weren't allowed to go door to door preaching, and they fought for that and got it in Canada here, anyways. Now again, some of these deprivations of liberty go against the United Nations Charter on the Rights of a Child, and these all add up to an emotionally abusive atmosphere. Emotional neglect is another ACE score witness children will always have. Emotional neglect. This is again due to severe adherence to doctrine to the detriment of a child's identity. True enough. So children are pushed into a corner. If you leave the organization as a parent, your children cannot talk to you. Parents are focused on witnessing, meeting attendance, control, and compliance of their child to do exactly what the rules of the organization states. And that's what it is. It's all rules. This blind adherence fails children's emotional needs. It does not allow them to freely express themselves without fear of repercussion. You see, it's always, oh, well, you're going to make Jehovah sad. You're going to make Jehovah, it's always Jehovah, but it's the watchtower. And the watchtower, remember, folks, equals the 9 men at the governing body. It's not about the people. It's about the watchtower and the 9 cult leaders in New York. That's what we're really against. And you see, children can't freely express themselves because the governing body says children are evil. Well, Stephen Lett said that. So we have you're evil, little child. You're evil until you get baptized. Get baptized young, then you won't be evil no more. You know, I know it's not like that, but it is like that. Now, I hesitate to put in physical abuse, even though it's rampant, and it should be noted that parents are encouraged to be physical with their children, and this is a culture within most congregations, that they should spank their kids when they make noise at the meetings. That's all you hear. That's all I heard is diapers. You know, the bang, 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 bang on those diapers. They make a lot of noise. They go back to the coat room or the mother's room. Kids screaming. Maybe it's hungry. Maybe it wants to play. You know, you expect a little kid to sit for 2 hours? Like, this is just not right. Anyways, I hesitate to put in a physical abuse, even though it's rampant. It should be noted parents are encouraged to be physical. Yes, they are. It's not unusual to see a minor being dragged out to the back room for flogging due to failure to sit through a beating. Yeah, that's what I was just got ahead of myself. And this culture is encouraged through the patriarchal structure to adhere to the doctrine that if you spoil a child and if you do not administer the rod, for sure. Okay, so that's the first one. Exposure to adversity. Your children raised in there are always going to, they're going to be marked 2 on that ACE score. Stress in the developing brain. Exposure to stress has a profound effect on the developing brain of a child. In particular, extremely fearful events affect the areas of learning and emotions. The hippocampus and the amygdala are the two main areas of the brain that are affected by stress and trauma. The amygdala determines whether something is threatening, and the hippocampus, which is responsible for your memory, links the fear to its context of the event occurring. And this in turn triggers a fear response. The brain releases neuropeptide S, which increases alertness and anxiety. And the brains of a young child are programmed with the flight or fright response and also have a limited capacity to manage overwhelming stress and experiences. Extreme stress can affect the brain's development in areas such as self-regulation, resilience, and a child's attachment to relationships. And the relationships children have with caregivers play a vital role. Young children under chronic stress often fail to develop those secure relationships with their caregivers, and then they do not have the basic sense of trust or security in the world. And Jehovah's Witness children are under chronic stress at all stages of their childhood. One of the key doctrines of the religion is that of Armageddon. Remember, folks, in the drama this last summer, it was all machine guns. It was real-life videos. So they've taken these pictures that were once in the Bible Stories book. Now they're in full-motion pictures, videos, like you'd go to the movie theater. And all these guys carrying machine guns and everyone with their to-go bag going to some JW camp. That's what this was about this last summer. Very scary to young people. We ran a lot of videos on this. So young children under the chronic stress often fail to develop secure relationships. Jehovah's, they're under a chronic stress at all times. One of the key doctrines is Armageddon. Magazines, books, their door-to-door preaching, online content, and talks from the pulpit are all focused on the impending doom and mass genocide that is coming. And their literature is littered with pictures of this mass genocide. And these pictures are confronting for adults and children. The organization places a great importance on emphasizing that this impending doom is coming any day or right around the corner, and to live in expectation of it. These are all common phrases used in the literature and online videos and from the congregation meetings. Yeah, that helped a lot. Sorry. We're just setting the lighting a little closer here.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so this context stress is not normal, while the fight or flight response, when triggered appropriately, is great, especially in a life or death situation. So you see, folks, we have these. Our brain is designed like that. If we imagine going back to the hunter-gatherer days, where everything's going good, you only have to kick in the fright mode if you hear the bear coming. Then you got to run or throw him the berries. But you see, as a Jehovah's Witness, you're always living in that fear because the bear's coming all the time. The wicked system's out there. Satan, the devil's all around you. Everywhere you look, it's Satan, the devil, Satan, the devil, Satan, the devil. That's why a Jehovah's Witness is always in a fright and flight mode. When this is stimulated on a daily occurrence, it makes learning difficult, as the stimulated senses are not those associated with deep learning. For example, you cannot learn algebra when you're being chased by a zombie. Children subjected to this chronic heightened sense are adversely affected. The heightened stress reaction short-circuits other brain functions like self-control, impulse control, memory, and reasoning. That sums a lot up. Maybe that's some Jehovah's Witnesses have trouble with impulse control. They go shopping. Or some Jehovah's Witnesses, they're always going to movie theaters, always trying to escape the world that they live in. I've seen that. I've seen that from the Jehovah's Witness life I lived. Children then do not have the capacity to think for themselves and logically determine their own belief system. Their brains are short-circuited to accept all doctrine pushed in front of them, as they are unable to attain those critical thinking skills that are necessary in life. This is maybe the guy that killed that lady, underestimated the whole thing. He just can't think right. His critical thinking on building this house just wasn't there. I don't know. Some people are carpenters, some aren't. This in turn keeps him trapped in the organization. Leavers of the organization often talk about a lack of critical thinking or higher thinking skills. Okay, so that covered stress in the developing brain, and the last one is lack of critical thinking. So as touched on in the previous paragraph, this stress states in a child's brain impairs the critical thinking skills. Again, as an example, it's harder to make smart, well thought out choices when you're being chased by zombies. Yeah. How do you plan your future? Okay. This is always a tough one. I know when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I was having a hard time. I got married, started having kids, and I didn't want to buy a house. I didn't want to buy a house. I was always renting. And eventually I bought a house because the end didn't come. It messes with people's normal lifestyle. This whole end's coming any day now. Why? And then families will sit because they believe this nonsense. They believe it. I did. That's why I know this is real, and I know this is real, and we got to look at this seriously, because we allow it to interrupt our thinking. The end's coming any day now. I'm not going to spend. I'm going to spend all my money on the watchtower. I'm going to go out and service. I'm going to have a really shitty job. I'm going to maybe just do janitor work at night so I can get out and save people during the day because I want to make it. Lots of Jehovah's Witnesses start thinking like that, and they get nowhere in life. I seen lots. And then something happens. One of the spouses can't clean windows no longer. This is real. This is a real story. Couldn't clean windows. They're going to overseas every year. Every year they're making enough here in Canada, and then they fly down to another country and do missionary work. And I think they were sponsoring themselves, kind of a thing, but they were working under the envelope of the Watchtower. Watchtower loves this because they don't have to fork out no money. And so this guy gets sick. He ends up with a colostomy bag. He comes back. They have to move. They're at middle age, in their 40s. They have to move in with her mom and dad. They have to move because he's sick. There's no Watchtower gives these people nothing. They kick him out. I remember this sister was so zealous, and she was just distraught at the end of it all. And she had to move and look after her husband and move in with her mom. I don't know what happened. But that's the way the religion works. Now, lack of critical thinking. We talk about the child's brain. It impairs the critical thinking skills. Again, as an example, it's harder to make well thought out choices when you're being chased by zombies. That's what we're talking about. And this is an exaggerated example. It illustrates the mental fight going on in the brain. Indoctrination is one of the major roadblocks to critical thinking. According to the Association of American College and Universities, teaching students to be skeptical will help them see through the distortions of propaganda and enable them to assess judiciously the persuasiveness of powerful emotional appeals. So this one doctor explains that a society due to many factors, talks about critical thinking, explains that as a society, due to many factors, this is emergent and a common problem. In the Dictionary of Psychology, blah, blah, blah. So looking for flaws or errors and then adjusting your perspective or thinking based on what you learn. This doesn't happen when you are in part of an organization that believes in indoctrination and blindly does what you're told to do. So looking for flaws. So when you're a Jehovah's Witness, you are not looking for flaws or errors. You're not doing it. You're not adjusting your perspective or thinking. based on what you learn. We're not looking at that as a Jehovah's Witness. What do I have here? Here's what stands out in my mind. I think I took it off my screen here. Watchtower, here it is. This here, if I was going to wake up, if I was still in the organization, this would make me wake up. Let's see if it plays.
And also, the governing body is neither inspired nor infallible, and so it can err in doctrinal matters or in organizational direction. Well, knowing this, then, we are not embarrassed about adjustments that are made, nor is an apology needed for not getting it exactly right previously. We understand this is how Jehovah operates. He reveals matters gradually when it is needed.
Yeah. If I was in the organization still, that would wake me up. That would wake me up. Because when you're in the organization, you actually think that that they don't make mistakes, that, you know, if I'm not taking blood transfusions, these guys have it right. They have the truth. They're inspired. Jehovah's inspired them. But now all of a sudden they're saying that they're not inspired. I think this is like a get out of jail free card. That's what I'm wondering. They still haven't brought this talk. This is the 2023 annual meeting. Jeffrey Winder still has not publicly, they haven't brought this into the JW org site yet for the rank and file to see this portion. Have they? I don't think we've seen Jeffrey Winder yet say this. I think it's coming. Okay, let's carry on. We got off track here, kind of. Indoctrination. So we're talking. This doesn't happen when you're part of it. Yeah. So you're not looking for flaws or errors or adjusting your thinking when you're in the organization. You actually believe that they're inspired. That's what got me onto this. But now they're saying they're not inspired. So should help wake some people up. Now it says, as an example of the dismissal of critical thinking on the part of this organization can be found in its teachings. And consider the next example from the Watchtower, November 15th, 2013. It says, at that time, the life-saving direction that we receive from Jehovah's organization may not appear practical from a human standpoint. All of us, remember that, guys? That was their big thing. All of us must be ready to obey any instructions we receive, whether these appear sound from a strategic or human standpoint or not. That's what they're instructing the flock to be. Blindly obey them. Blindly obey them. They want blind obedience. Number 4. Now is the time for any, this is JW's literature, this is from their own Watchtower. It says, now is the time for any who may be putting up their trust in secular education, material things, or human institutions to adjust their thinking. Can you imagine that? They're ballsy. How ballsy. Now is the time to put their trust, to quit putting their trust. So if you're putting your trust in education, material things, or human institutions, you need to adjust your thinking. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. The elders must stand ready. So here they put the elders up high here. The elders must stand ready. These are their soldiers. The elders are the soldiers. Stand ready to spear any, not help any. Spear any who may be wavering in their faith. Kick them out. That's what they do. You know, if you're wavering in your faith, let's say you have a crisis of conscience, you say this is all bullshit, you're kicked out. No questions asked. Another example is a strong straight from their songbook entitled Listen, Obey, and Be Blessed. You remember that song? And we beat that into our blinking heads for life. For 30 years, I beat that crap into my head. Listen, obey, and be blessed. Blessed with what? Numerous more sightings should be listed, reiterate similar sentiments. All doctrines from the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society must be strictly adhered to. You see that? All doctrines from Watchtower must be strictly adhered to, and all dissent is apostasy and faces extreme consequences. And it puts, you see, these consequences is what puts the stress on the members. And this again eliminates critical thinking. You're going to get disfellowship for critical thinking. It's brain damage, folks. So I don't know how you put it. It's brain damage. It's wrecking our brains by not critical thinking. I felt so good when I got out. It took me a while. It took me a good year. Well, I wrote that book, and then I started online. It took a year online to finally get to a point where it feels good. I do a little research, did a little research on this. I didn't really read this too hard, but I read some of this before. It's good for us, this research. It helps us to understand where we came from and how our brains are working. So if our brains are always getting angry at what happened to us from leaving, we have some work to do. If our brains are always in that position. And we have to get rid of that stuff really quick, because we don't want that cognitive situation happening, that anger. That's what happens when you come out, because you're ostracized, you're shunned. So it makes a person angry. It can make you angry. So what we have to do is we have to replace everything with something else. And we talked about on this channel the hero's journey. Joe and Fran talked about the 12 steps to the hero's journey. It's a good, even if you watch the beginning of it, it was a live they just did last night. And the beginning, they covered the 12 steps. And it's really nice for us as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, because if you, even though if you're PMO and you're in there, you're still on this hero's journey. You're the hero, because you're waking up, you woke up, you got out, you're on that journey. And we're all on this journey together. We're all heroes together for getting out of that religion. So I think that's a positive way of looking at it. And once we start looking at ourselves as a hero, we're the protagonist, we're the main character in our show, in our movie that we play in our heads. We have to be the hero. And as soon as we make ourselves a hero, we're no longer the victim. We're no longer the victim, we're the hero. And we got out. And now we're in a position we can help others out. We can reach out. They have to reach up and grab your hand, but you have your hand out, and that's what we have. So that's what we have on this channel. We have a Discord connection. You'll see it in the descriptions of all our videos. And my good wife, just put it in the chat, so you can click on that, and that gets you in. Now you have to set that Discord server app up or something on your own device prior. Just Google it, and you can set that up. And it's a chat room. Even if you're another language, you can get in, and we can handle up to 50 languages, but we have to put them in as they come. So let's say we get someone that speaks Russian. We'll get that in, and we'll put that language in. Right now we're set up, I think, for Spanish, French, Spanish, English, French, and Italian. So. And it's a really nice closed community for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses to talk about things, talk about how they're feeling, and it's a safer environment. On these lives, anybody can see these lives, but in the Discord, it's a closed community. What happens in Discord stays in Discord. It's just how it's made. Okay, now let's finish off in this article. We're going to talk about this extreme dismissal of critical thinking is encouraged. That's what's encouraged in the Watchtower, to dismiss critical thinking. And we read it straight from the publications. They don't want you thinking. Straight from the publications, congregants, publishers, they're instructed that no matter how illogical or unpractical instruction is, that the congregants must blindly obey. Grab your to-go bag and go up to the camp. Sign your house over to the Watchtower. It's probably burnt down, they're going to tell you. Don't worry about it. Sign it over to us. We'll have one of our contractors go in and deal with all that. You stay safe in our camp. We own your house. Oh, do you have any money in your pocket? Can you put it in the contribution box? We want you broke. We want it so that you have to show up to eat. You need us. That's what I see happening, folks. That's what's going on with this cult. That's what I see going on. If you watch the drama with a critical mind, this last summer, what is that all about? Getting people to go up to the camp, scaring all the kids with machine guns. Like, this religion really needs to be outlawed in the world. It's not a religion, folks. This is a cult. Okay, so congregants are told not to think. It's a cult. We're going to say that we have to be okay with the fact that we were in a cult, and we got brainwashed. It was a trance. I call it the Rutherford trance. It's like you're in a trance. It's what you're doing day in, day out. You're going out. Now you're handing cards out. You're not even preaching. You're not even really, you're getting people to their website, and their videos are luring them in down a rabbit hole. And pretty soon people are sucked in, and they people believe what they read. So that's why we have to be careful what we put in our minds. It's like eating. If we eat poison, we're going to get deathly sick, and we're going to be vomiting, and it's going to be not a pleasant experience. So we've put all this poison into our minds. Now we have to vomit the poison out, and it's not going to be pleasant. It's going to be uncomfortable to get this out. And we're going to be uncomfortable going through this transition, accepting the fact that I was in a cult. That was a big one for me. Now, the severe and systematic flaws in this organization are contributing to a culture where children's development is greatly disadvantaged. And you can see the failings that have been outlined. The sad thing about this is that most parents raising children in this organization do not realize the damage they are doing to the development of their children. They don't realize it. Parents are being damaged. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are also generations in, or born-ins, as they call it. So from childhood, they have been disadvantaged also the same way they are now doing to their children. And I do not think that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society will change the doctrine contributing to this anytime soon, as it will result in congregants leaving or diminished control. And highlighting of these issues may help others heal or realize and make changes, stopping the cycle of abuse. And this should be of a paramount concern to everyone. As amazing Maya Angelou said, do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better. It is my firm hope that knowledge will give current and former Jehovah's Witnesses the power to do better for the precious children entrusted to them. End of article. So there's a lot of research that Stephen Hassan has put into it. He was in a cult himself, and this article was written by an ex-Jehovah's Witness psychologist. So I'll pin this to the video, and you guys didn't see the last part of it, I guess. I was just talking, reading it, but it's quite an article. We covered the whole thing. There's all the references. The last part, lack of critical thinking, stress development in the brain, exposure to adversity, how Jehovah's Witness teachings can damage brain development in children. What did you guys think when I had the this on? What did you guys think? You watch that for a bit, and it just the same old, and that's what we used to pound into our children's minds, is this stuff. So we had a good show. The topic was not the nicest topic. I don't like these topics, but these are the headlines. These are the topics that are coming out. So not to cover them, I don't think doesn't help anybody. I think it's good for everyone that we cover some of this. So hi to Nellie Furtado. Did I say that right? William Graves, Beverly Harwood, Aposta Babe. So we had a few people on. Antoinette. D Happy Heretic. Hello. This is kind of a new time. We're going to try to do this time. Hopefully we're catching some of you out there that are, maybe it's evening. Maybe you're in Norway or someone and it's evening. we find that we see different people on. So we have now 3 lives, I think, going each week. We have lives on, we do a live on Monday. We're going to start doing a Monday night live, I think. Maybe we'll cover some of our news this way. And Wednesday night at 5 p.m. our time is Joe and Fran. So they're in New York. So they were on like for 4 hours last night. And you can come on that channel on Wednesday nights. You can come on and talk. Come right online. It's done on StreamYard, and they love it when people come and tell their outside story. So it gives the audience a chance. So we have the Discord available now. You can get in, and there's a community in there, a closed community. There's even some people with degrees, I think, counseling degrees that do counseling, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that have become counselors. I don't know all the details. You'd have to ask my good wife, but that is going on right now in Discord. So it's a place to go to get out, to start meeting new people. Joe and Fran are putting together a whole list. If you want to meet up with people, it's so important. Some people are lost or lonely. So if you want to meet up with people, they have a list, and they can hook you up, I guess. Because people are so nervous about meeting with an ex-JW or apostate or any of that stuff. They're really nervous because of this indoctrination. Okay, well, that brings an end to our show. Thank you for being on, everyone. It was a topic we have to cover, and it's there's probably going to be more topics like this. It seems like every year they're getting worse when we plug in Jehovah's Witnesses and what's on the headlines. But hopefully, if people are even in the religion and they need to free their mind, and they come on YouTube, watch any of these videos, come on into the Discord channel, chat with everyone, come online and chat, or even just sit back and watch. There's nothing scary. There's no tricks here. We're just giving the rest of the story. Okay, well, I want to say, keep doing what you can. I always say, live your life with love. Until next time, live your life with love. We can beat that into our heads, can't we? We just like the Watchtower beats other things, we can put that in our heads. Well, how do you live your life with love? Smile. You whistle. You give more hugs out. You do nice things. There's all kinds of things we can do. We can go out and be part of a community if we want to get involved. We can, in a non-religious basis, you could help at the food bank, help at soup kitchens. You can help. There's all kinds of where you can volunteer. And oftentimes, we live in this box. Okay, 4 corners, and we have to get out of the box to see anything else. So we're in this box. We're in the Jehovah's Witness world. We come out of the Jehovah's Witness world. We have to get out of the box. We have to stick our head out there and go and try some different things. So I always say, try a different transportation mode to work. If you've always taken the same route forever, try a different route. Meet new people. That's what it's about. And that's hard as an ex-Jehovah's Witness. It takes a while to get our minds in the right place. And again, I can't stress enough, that's why I think some of these chat lines are really important for everyone. Okay, well, that brings our program to an end. So keep living your day with love. Bye for now. And thanks again for watching. We appreciate your comments, your dislikes, and your likes. If you would like to support the channel, just press join and buy us a coffee once a month. Until next time, keep dancing, smiling, laughing, and most of all, keep loving those around you. And have a great day.
Produced by Fixing My Faith.